The rain began long before Ethan Walker reached the town of Black Hollow. Thin silver streaks slid endlessly across the windshield as his car crawled through the narrow coastal road. Beyond the cliffs, the Atlantic roared against black rocks hidden beneath the darkness. The sea had always sounded angry here. Even as a child, Ethan remembered lying awake at night, listening to the waves smashing against the shore below town, wondering if the ocean itself was trying to claw its way inland. Black Hollow had not changed in 12 years. The same dying streetlights glowed weakly through the mist. The same old brick buildings leaned toward the road, as though exhausted from surviving another winter. Even the church at the top of the hill still rang its bell every hour, the sound hollow and lonely in the cold night air. Ethan tightened his grip on the steering wheel. He had sworn he would never come back. Not after his mother died. Not after the hotel. But 3 nights earlier, a plain white envelope had appeared beneath the door of his apartment in Boston. No stamp, no return address, only his name written in shaky handwriting. Inside was a single sentence. If you want the truth about your mother, come back to room 214. Nothing else. No signature. No explanation. For hours, Ethan had stared at the letter, convincing himself it was some cruel joke. Yet something deep inside him refused to let it go. The guilt he had buried for years began clawing back to the surface. The last time his mother called him, he ignored it. That memory haunted him more than her death itself. He still remembered sitting drunk at a college party while his phone vibrated over and over inside his jacket pocket. He had looked at the screen once. Mom. Then he silenced it. The next morning, police officers arrived at his dormitory. His mother had supposedly thrown herself from the 4th-floor window of the Ashbourne Hotel, room 214. Ethan blinked hard as the towering shape of the hotel finally emerged through the rain. The Ashbourne Hotel stood at the edge of town, overlooking the sea like a dying king refusing to fall. The building was enormous, built in the late 1800s during Black Hollow's wealthy years. Gothic stone walls rose into the fog, while hundreds of dark windows stared blankly into the storm. Only one window glowed faintly yellow. 4th floor, room 214. Ethan felt cold immediately. The hotel parking lot was empty, except for his car. No movement. No sound besides the rain tapping against the roof. He stepped outside slowly. The air smelled of salt water and wet stone. For a moment he considered leaving, driving away, forgetting the letter ever existed. But then he saw something standing behind the 4th-floor window. A silhouette, watching him. Ethan froze. Lightning flashed across the ocean. The figure vanished. His heartbeat quickened as he climbed the cracked stone stairs toward the entrance. The giant wooden doors groaned when he pushed them open. Warm air greeted him immediately. Too warm. The lobby looked frozen in time. Chandeliers hung from the ceiling, dim and flickering. Dust covered the velvet furniture. Ancient paintings stared down from the walls with dark, faded eyes. And behind the front desk sat an old woman. She looked at least 80. Her silver hair was tied tightly behind her head, and her pale skin seemed almost translucent beneath the yellow light. Yet the strangest part was the expression on her face. She did not look surprised to see him. "You came back," she whispered. Ethan stopped walking. "I'm sorry." The woman studied him carefully before giving a slow nod. "You have your mother's eyes." The word struck him harder than expected. For years he had avoided hearing anyone mention his mother. Even saying her name out loud felt dangerous somehow, as if speaking it would reopen wounds that never truly healed. Ethan swallowed. "Did you send the letter?" The woman ignored the question. "She used to sing while cleaning the room," she murmured softly. "Always the same song." Ethan stared at her. A strange unease crept into his chest. "Look," he said quietly, "I just need to know who sent me here." The old woman finally lifted one trembling finger and pointed toward the staircase behind him. "Room 214 still remembers." A silence followed. Then she returned her attention to the old ledger book, resting on the desk as though the conversation had ended. Ethan stood there awkwardly for several seconds before speaking again. "Is anyone else staying here?" "No." The answer came too quickly. "You run this entire place alone." The woman smiled faintly. "I suppose I do now." Thunder rolled across the sea outside. Ethan forced himself to step away from the desk. The elevator no longer worked, so he climbed the stairs slowly. Each step creaked beneath his weight. The deeper he went into the hotel, the colder it became. By the time he reached the 4th floor, the air felt freezing. The hallway stretched endlessly before him beneath dim, flickering lights. Torn wallpaper peeled from the walls. Old framed photographs hung crookedly beside rusted room numbers. At the very end of the corridor stood room 214. Its door was black, unlike the others. Ethan approached carefully. A heavy chain wrapped around the handle. Locked. He exhaled quietly. Good. Part of him felt relieved. He turned away and found his assigned room farther down the hall. Room 219. Inside the room smelled old, but clean enough. A neatly folded blanket rested at the end of the bed. A small lamp glowed softly beside the window overlooking the ocean cliffs. Ethan sat heavily on the mattress. Everything about this place felt wrong. Not haunted. Worse. Alive. He rubbed his face tiredly before pulling the letter from his coat pocket again. If you want the truth about your mother... The words suddenly felt heavier inside the silent room. His mother had not been mentally unstable. That was the part nobody understood. Everyone in town accepted the official story because it was easier. A depressed single mother working endless hours at an isolated hotel finally snapped. Simple, clean, convenient. But Ethan remembered her laughter, her warmth, the way she danced around their tiny kitchen while cooking dinner. She had dreams. People with dreams were not supposed to end their lives. Outside, the storm intensified. Rain battered the windows violently. Then suddenly, a sound echoed through the hallway. Ethan lifted his head slowly. The distant hum of a vacuum cleaner. He frowned. At first, he assumed the old receptionist must still be cleaning somewhere downstairs. But the sound grew louder, closer, directly outside his room. The vacuum stopped. Silence. Ethan stared at the door. A strange pressure settled in his chest. Then came another sound. Soft humming. A woman humming quietly to herself. The blood drained from Ethan's face. He knew that melody. His mother used to hum it while cleaning their apartment late at night. Slowly, almost against his will, Ethan stood up. The humming continued outside. He approached the door carefully and opened it. The hallway was empty. Completely empty. Yet, at the far end of the corridor, room 214 stood slightly open. The chain was gone. A cold draft moved through the hallway. Ethan's breathing became shallow. The humming stopped. For several seconds, he simply stared at the black doorway. Every instinct screamed at him to return to his room and lock the door. Instead, he started walking. Step by step. The floorboards creaked softly beneath him. When he finally reached room 214, the door slowly drifted open wider on its own. Inside, darkness swallowed almost everything. Only the pale moonlight from the storm outside illuminated the room faintly. The furniture remained untouched, preserved like a photograph trapped in time. The bed was neatly made. Dust floated through the air, and near the window stood an old cleaning cart. Ethan's chest tightened violently. His mother's silver name tag still hung from the side. Maria Walker. His hands trembled as he stepped farther inside. The room smelled faintly of lavender perfume. Her perfume. No, he whispered. Then suddenly, the bathroom door creaked open by itself. Ethan turned sharply. Steam covered the bathroom mirror as though someone had just taken a hot shower. And slowly, letters began appearing across the fogged glass, as if written by invisible fingers. Don't let him see you. Ethan stumbled backward. The lights in the room exploded off instantly. Darkness swallowed everything. Then from somewhere deep inside the room, a man's voice whispered softly beside his ear. She should have stayed quiet. Ethan could not breathe. The whisper had come from so close behind him that he felt warm air brush against his neck. She should have stayed quiet. He spun around violently, his shoulder slamming into the wall beside the bathroom door. Darkness swallowed the room entirely now. The storm outside had consumed the moonlight, leaving only brief flashes of silver whenever lightning tore across the sky beyond the windows. "Who's there?" Ethan shouted. His own voice sounded wrong inside room 214. Small, fragile. No answer came. Only the sound of rain hammering the glass. Ethan fumbled through the darkness until his shaking hands found the doorknob. He yanked the door open and stumbled into the hallway, breathing hard like a drowning man reaching the surface. The corridor was empty, but the lights above him flickered wildly now, one after another, buzzing, dying. The hotel suddenly felt much larger than before, much older. Somewhere below, deep within the building, Ethan heard the elevator groan to life, even though the receptionist had said it no longer worked. The metallic sound echoed slowly upward through the walls. Clang, 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 like ancient machinery waking from sleep. Ethan backed away from room 214 without taking his eyes off the doorway. The room remained pitch black, yet for one horrifying second he thought he saw someone standing inside, tall, perfectly still, watching him. Then lightning flashed again, and the room was empty. Ethan turned immediately and hurried down the hallway toward his room. Every instinct screamed at him to leave the hotel entirely, but something stronger kept him rooted there. The truth. For 12 years he had lived beside unanswered questions. Every birthday, every sleepless night, every failed relationship. His mother's death lingered over his life like a shadow, stretching endlessly behind him. And now, for the first time, it felt as though something inside this place wanted him to know what really happened. He reached room 219 and slammed the door shut behind him. The silence inside the room felt suffocating. Ethan locked the door immediately, then checked it twice. His chest still rose and fell rapidly as he leaned against the wall. "This is insane," he whispered to himself. He tried forcing logic back into his mind. Old hotels creaked. Storms caused electrical problems. Exhaustion played tricks on people. And grief. Grief could resurrect ghosts from nothing. He repeated those thoughts over and over while pacing the room. But one detail refused to leave his mind. The name tag. His mother's cleaning card was real. No hallucination could explain that. Ethan sat heavily at the edge of the bed and rubbed trembling hands across his face. He had barely slept during the drive from Boston, and now fatigue wrapped around him like cold water. Outside, thunder rolled endlessly across the sea. Eventually, he stood again and walked toward the window. From the 4th floor, Black Hollow looked almost abandoned beneath the rain. Empty streets, fog drifting between old buildings. The lighthouse near the cliffs swept its pale beams slowly across the storm. Then Ethan noticed something strange. A figure stood outside near the edge of the parking lot. A woman. Even through the rain, he could tell she wore dark clothing and stood completely motionless beneath the storm. Her face remained hidden beneath the shadows. Ethan frowned. The woman slowly lifted one arm and pointed upward, toward room 214. Lightning flashed. The parking lot became empty. Ethan stumbled backward from the window immediately. Jesus Christ. He looked again. Nothing remained outside except rain and darkness. His pulse pounded painfully inside his ears now. The hotel was getting inside his head. That had to be it. He grabbed his phone from the nightstand and considered calling someone. Anybody. But who would believe this? A 30-year-old man returning to his childhood town, only to become frightened by shadows in an old hotel. Even Ethan barely believed himself. The phone suddenly vibrated in his hand. Unknown number. Ethan hesitated before answering. Hello. At first, there was only static. Then came breathing. Slow, weak breathing. Mom, Ethan whispered without thinking. The breathing stopped instantly. A low crackling noise followed, as though the caller were moving through poor reception. Then finally, don't trust the woman downstairs. The voice was barely audible. A woman's voice. Ethan's stomach tightened violently. Who is this? No answer. Only static again. Then the line disconnected. Ethan stared at the phone screen in disbelief. His fingers had gone numb. He replayed the voice in his head over and over. It had sounded distorted, almost broken beneath the static, yet something about it felt painfully familiar. Not exactly his mother, but close enough to make his chest ache. Suddenly, 3 loud knocks slammed against his door. Ethan jumped. The knocks came again. Slow this time. Deliberate. Knock. 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 He approached carefully. Who is it? Silence. Ethan looked through the peephole. Nobody. The hallway stood empty beneath flickering lights. Yet, as he kept staring, something moved at the far end of the corridor near room 214. A person crossing slowly past the doorway. Too tall, too thin. Ethan pulled away immediately. His breathing quickened again. The floorboards outside creaked softly now, as though someone were pacing back and forth, beyond the door, back and forth, back and forth. Then the humming began again. The same melody his mother used to sing while cleaning. Ethan shut his eyes tightly. No, He remembered hearing that song as a child while lying on the couch late at night waiting for her to return from work. She would hum softly while removing her shoes by the front door, believing he was already asleep. That memory nearly broke him now. Without realizing it, Ethan opened the door. The hallway was empty again, but the humming continued, very faint, coming from downstairs. Against his better judgment, Ethan followed the sound. The staircase groaned beneath each careful step as he descended toward the lobby. The hotel seemed darker now, colder. Shadows stretched unnaturally along the walls whenever lightning illuminated the windows. When he reached the lobby, he froze immediately. The receptionist was gone. The front desk stood empty, but the old ledger book remained open beneath the lamp. Ethan approached cautiously. The pages looked ancient, yellowed with age. Names filled the lines in faded black ink, dating back decades. Then Ethan saw his mother's name, Maria Walker, room service supervisor. His chest tightened. Below her final work date, someone had written a sentence in dark red ink. She saw him. Ethan stared at the words. What the hell? A floorboard creaked behind him. He turned sharply. The old receptionist stood near the staircase now, completely still. Ethan had not heard her approach. Her pale eyes locked onto his immediately. You shouldn't touch that. Her voice sounded different now, less fragile, almost stern. Ethan pointed toward the ledger. Who wrote this? The woman did not answer. Instead, she glanced slowly toward the hallway leading deeper into the hotel. There are things in this building that should remain buried. Ethan stepped toward her. My mother died here. Yes, you knew her. Another silence. Then the old woman nodded faintly. She was kind, she whispered. Too kind. Ethan's frustration finally broke through his fear. Everybody keeps talking in riddles, he snapped. If you know something, then tell me what happened to her. For the first time, genuine fear appeared in the receptionist's eyes. Not fear of Ethan, fear of the hotel itself. She went looking for answers, the woman whispered. And the hotel noticed. Lightning exploded outside. For a brief instant, the entire lobby illuminated bright white, and Ethan saw someone standing behind the receptionist, a towering silhouette. Its head nearly touched the ceiling chandelier. The figure stood motionless in the darkness near the hallway entrance. Ethan's blood turned to ice. The old woman noticed his expression immediately. Slowly, very slowly, she turned her head toward the darkness behind her. The figure vanished. The receptionist inhaled sharply. You need to leave this place tonight. Ethan swallowed hard. What was that? But the woman suddenly grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. Her skin felt freezing cold. If you hear knocking after 214, she whispered urgently, do not open your door. The chandelier lights above them flickered violently. Then every light in the lobby died at once. Darkness swallowed the room completely. And somewhere upstairs, a door slammed shut. The sound of the door slamming upstairs echoed through the hotel like a gunshot. Then silence returned, heavy, oppressive. Ethan stood frozen in the darkness beside the receptionist, his pulse hammering violently against his ribs. Outside, the storm raged harder now. Rain battered the tall lobby windows, while thunder rolled endlessly across the sea cliffs below Black Hollow. The old woman still gripped his wrist tightly. You need to go, she whispered again. But Ethan could barely hear her. His attention remained fixed on the staircase. Something had moved up there. He was certain of it. A faint shadow crossed the second-floor landing for only a second, before disappearing back into darkness. Who is he? Ethan asked quietly. The receptionist's expression changed immediately. Fear deepened inside her pale eyes. You shouldn't say things like that out loud. Ethan pulled his arm free. My mother died here, he snapped. I deserve answers. Lightning flashed through the windows, illuminating the lobby in cold white light. For a moment, Ethan saw tears gathering in the old woman's eyes. She deserved better too, she whispered. Before Ethan could respond, the power suddenly returned. The chandelier above them flickered weakly back to life. But something was wrong. The receptionist was staring toward the elevator. The ancient metal doors at the far end of the lobby stood open now, even though nobody had touched them. Darkness filled the elevator interior completely. Then came the sound, a low humming, the same melody. Ethan felt every muscle in his body tighten instantly. His mother's song. The receptionist took a slow step backward. No, she breathed. The humming grew louder, closer, and then Ethan saw her. A woman slowly emerged from the elevator, wearing a dark housekeeping uniform from decades earlier. Wet, black hair clung to her face and shoulders as though she had walked through heavy rain. Her head remained lowered, but Ethan recognized her immediately. "Mum." His voice cracked apart. The woman stopped moving. For several seconds, nobody spoke. The receptionist looked horrified. The figure slowly lifted her head. Ethan's breath caught painfully in his throat. It was his mother, older somehow, pâler, yet unmistakably her. The same soft eyes, the same delicate features. Except now, deep bruised shadows darkened the skin around her throat. "Ethan," she whispered weakly. He moved toward her instinctively. Every rational thought vanished. For 12 years he had dreamed of hearing her voice one more time, and now she stood only feet away. "I'm here," he whispered. "Mom, what happened to you?" Suddenly, the receptionist screamed. "Don't touch her." The lights exploded violently. Glass shattered overhead. Darkness swallowed the lobby again. And in that instant, something enormous moved behind Ethan's mother inside the elevator. A silhouette, far too tall to be human, unfolded slowly from the darkness. Its limbs bent unnaturally. Its head nearly scraped the elevator ceiling. Ethan staggered backward in horror. His mother's face changed instantly. Fear flooded her expression. "Run." The creature lunged forward. The sound it made did not sound human. It was wet, broken, like several voices screaming together beneath water. Ethan turned and ran immediately. The receptionist grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the staircase as the elevator doors slammed shut behind them with tremendous force. The entire hotel shook. "What the hell is that?" Ethan shouted. The old woman dragged him upstairs surprisingly fast despite her age. "You were never supposed to come back," she cried. Behind them, something heavy crashed through the lobby. Floorboards splintered. Walls shook violently. Ethan glanced behind him and instantly wished he had not. The thing from the elevator was climbing the staircase on all fours. Its body twisted unnaturally beneath the flickering lights. Long arms dragged against the steps, while its head jerked sideways in sharp, broken movements. Its face remained hidden inside darkness. But Ethan saw enough. Burned flesh. A stretched jaw. Eyes far too deep inside the skull. The receptionist shoved Ethan forward. "Room 214, she screamed. "Go." "What?" "It can't enter unless invited." The creature let out another horrible shriek. Ethan sprinted down the fourth-floor hallway, while lights burst above him one by one. The entire corridor shook violently around him now. Behind him, the thing climbed closer. Fast. Too fast. The receptionist suddenly stopped running. Ethan turned. The old woman stood trembling beneath flickering lights midway down the corridor. The creature paused several feet away from her, almost studying her. Then slowly, it stood upright. Its height became monstrous. Its head nearly touched the ceiling. The receptionist looked toward Ethan one final time. "I'm sorry about your mother." Then the creature grabbed her. The woman's scream echoed through the hotel, as darkness consumed both of them instantly. Ethan stumbled backward in horror. No, the hallway lights died completely. Only room 214 remained illuminated at the far end. Its black door slowly creaked open. Ethan had nowhere else to go. He rushed inside and slammed the door shut. Instant silence followed. No footsteps. No screams. Nothing. The room felt colder than before. Moonlight filtered weakly through rain-covered windows while shadows stretched across the old furniture. Ethan backed away from the door, slowly breathing hard. Then he heard soft crying. Near the window. He turned carefully. His mother sat beside the cleaning cart now, with her face buried in trembling hands. Not the terrifying figure from downstairs. This looked like her. The real her. Fragile. Broken. Ethan approached slowly. "Mom." She lifted her tear-filled eyes toward him. "I tried to protect you," she whispered. Ethan's throat tightened painfully. "You're dead." A sad smile crossed her face. "Yes." The word nearly destroyed him. For a moment, Ethan felt like a child again, standing in the ruins of something he could never repair. He knelt beside her slowly. "What happened here?" His mother stared toward the bathroom mirror. "The hotel keeps secrets," she whispered. "It always has." Lightning flashed outside. For a brief second, Ethan noticed bruises around her wrists. She saw something, a new voice suddenly said behind him. Ethan spun around violently. A man stood near the doorway now. Old, thin. wearing a weathered security uniform. His skin looked pale gray beneath the moonlight. "You." The man nodded sadly. "I worked here the night your mother died." Ethan rose immediately. "You know what happened?" The old guard looked toward Maria. "She found him." The room temperature dropped sharply. The mirror inside the bathroom cracked suddenly. A long fracture spread across the glass. Ethan stared at the man. "Who?" The guard swallowed hard. In 1987, a wealthy guest checked into room 214 with his wife. His voice trembled slightly. 3 nights later, the wife disappeared. Thunder shook the building. The husband claimed she left during the storm, the guard continued. Police believed him because he owned half this town. Maria lowered her eyes. "But she didn't leave," Ethan whispered. The old guard shook his head slowly. "She died in this room." The lights flickered again. Ethan suddenly remembered the whisper. She should have stayed quiet. His chest tightened. "My mother found out." Maria nodded weakly. She heard screaming from this room after midnight. Tears rolled down her pale cheeks. "I should have ignored it." The bathroom mirror cracked again violently. This time, blood began dripping slowly down the fractured glass. Ethan stepped backward. "What is happening?" The guard's face darkened with terror. "He knows you're learning the truth." A loud knock slammed against the door. All 3 of them froze instantly. Knock, knock, knock. 2:14 a.m. The receptionist's warning echoed through Ethan's mind. "If you hear knocking after 2:14, do not open your door." The knocking came again, harder this time. The door frame trembled. Maria stood suddenly. Fear consumed her expression. "He's here." The knocking became violent now. Wood splintered. The entire room shook. Then a deep voice spoke from the other side of the door. "Maria." Ethan felt his blood freeze. The voice sounded almost human, almost gentle. "Open the door." Maria backed away, trembling. The old guard looked utterly horrified now. "You mustn't let him inside." Another massive impact hit the door. Cracks spread across the wood. Ethan looked desperately between them. "What is he?" The guard answered quietly. "Not a man anymore." The lights exploded. Darkness consumed room 214 completely. And from the other side of the broken door, something began breathing.